Ho, ho, ho. Good day, everyone. How's it going today? Well, my name's Carpo. As I say, for those who don't know, this will be my evening ramble for whatever, the 25th, I guess, of January 2017. I was going to talk about herbs in this one, the interest that I have in herbs, but rather specifically which herbs help me. Actually, I've got some cannabis in my hand. I didn't even realize. Yeah, it was an interesting. I went to a concert last night. I'm sure somebody will ask me about this hoodie here. I went to see the Excision concert last night. Guess you couldn't call it a concert, but a show. And I just saw this hoodie on the wall and I had to have it. I was like, last year I bought a t-shirt, but I was like, you know, I saw it and I was like, I gotta have this thing. It was like $60, but it's like, it's all polyester, so it's not cotton, so it's got a really weird feel to it. I really like it a lot. But it's very decorative and colorful. And the funniest damn thing is that while I was there, I actually, at the merch booth, they actually had this. This is Excision vape juice, okay? Paradox flavor. It's pretty funny. I had to have it. I was like, it smells like grape Kool-Aid. It's delicious. Anyway, I like vaping. Vaping's one of my hobbies. One of my habits, I guess you could call it. And I've got all these herbs over here, and I wanted to go through them because I get so many questions about what I've gotten out of certain herbs. And I wanted to start off with talking about Kratom. Because it was last night, let's see, a year ago when I went to the Excision concert, I decided that all I was going to do was just take a good dose of Kratom before I went, and maybe have a couple beers when I was there. And I danced my ass off. Had a great time. Didn't have to worry about, I was by myself, so I didn't have to worry about finding anybody, or didn't care if I was embarrassing myself as being the oldest guy there dancing, because I was the oldest, probably the oldest guy there. Then this year, I went and, same thing, I decided to take some Kratom and drink a couple beers. And then I was moving, I was feeling great. And then what happened was they had 3 opening acts. The show started at 8, and Excision didn't even come on until like 10:15 to 10:30. So it was like 2.5 hours later, and I was already starting to burn out a little bit. So I had 40 milligrams of MDMA that I had just in case. And that's a very small dose. Like some of the people, friends that I have, they take like 400 milligrams at a time. So that's like 10 times the dose I took last night. But I'm all about functional doses of things. And it seems like with most herbs and substances, people are, you know, they're trying to seek some particular level of high. In other words, they're trying to max out the feeling that they can get and try to get the maximum out of it. I've never even taken more than 150 milligrams of MDMA, maybe 160, 170, but even that was almost too much for me. Not that I couldn't handle more, but because I can't actually really embrace the experience and use it when I'm in that state. I'm just, you know, when you go to shows like that, you see people that are just wasted. And you can see people just rolling hard, and you're like, man, that's that's just too much, you know. And then the result of that is what they call Suicide Mondays or Tuesdays, where a day or two after you roll or take, you know, MDMA in particular, you can feel kind of down and depressed. And I've never had that experience, and I realized it's because I don't overdo it. I've talked to people who take like up to 1 gram at a time, and that is just a horrendous dose, way too much. And I feel the same way about psychedelics. Psilocybin mushrooms are, you know, kind of an exception sometimes, because I like to take a heavy dose if I'm trying to get myself into a particular headspace. But I'll generally take like, you know, like my favorite dose of mushrooms, you know, cubensis, like 5 grams. Between 3.5 and 7.5 are the doses that I've generally messed with. And taking 7.5 grams, that was a 1/4 ounce, and that was a lot. Actually, was it? yeah, it was a little more than a quarter. It was quite an experience, I gotta say. I found myself in this, like, we were out camping, a friend and I, and we split a ½ ounce of mushrooms, laid under the stars, and all night long till dawn. I mean, it was like that whole night. It was just wild. I mean, I went through some... The reason I take psychedelics is because it awakens the depths of my mind and helps me to kind of regain my senses about what's important. It brings back my inspiration to paint, to do art, to write music. Psychedelics are inspiring to me. Whereas MDMA, I see it as a tool, but even that 40 milligrams, it really helped me function and dance, and I felt great, but I wasn't high. And that's just the thing. We're looking for this level where you can function. When we talk about Kratom, you know, I've heard people say, oh man, I took 20 grams of Kratom and all it did was make me sick. You know, it doesn't even get you high. I say, well, it's not supposed to get you high. It's Kratom. And they'll say, well, why are people all excited about it if it doesn't get you high? I say, because it helps people who know better than to take things that do get you high, to put it plainly. In other words, people know that they could get more of an effect off of taking pharmaceutical opiates, or heroin for that matter, but we know better, and therefore we're trying to find a substance that helps assist in certain ways with, say, pain or anxiety, and at the same time allows us to function. And Kratom, for me, that has been just a godsend. And besides Kratom, you know, cannabis is really the only other, I guess, well, not the only other, but the only mind-changing, and I wouldn't even call Kratom mind-altering, but I don't even enjoy cannabis as much as I used to. I mean, I haven't smoked all day, and usually in the past I would, you know, I'd smoke a bowl by noon at least. I brought some of my herbs over here just so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to talk about. I mentioned Kratom. Then I've got Cana. And Cana, or Scledium tortuosum, it has a mild SSRI-like quality to it, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. In other words, it helps with anxiety. And some people have told me about Cana that they've tried it and they never got anything off of it. Others seem to like it. Those who do take it know that it's a very mild feeling. But the one thing about Cana is that, coincidentally, Cana and cannabis, even though they're totally different, having that same term, they work synergistically together. And traditionally, I believe it was the Hottentots tribe in Africa, they would use Cana, or cowguid. There's a few different names for it, but they would take it and put it into their, you know, into their lip, like a quid. You can take it sublingually or you can eat it, but less than a gram is more than effective in reducing anxiety for me. Now, I smoke it. I actually have, this is just standard traditional, traditionally fermented Cana. But I also have like an extract, and that stuff's quite strong. But I found that just putting a little bit on a bowl of cannabis and smoking it along with it will very much intensify the effects. Not in a bad way or be too stoned, but rather just it helps to give you that more of a relaxed feeling, because cannabis can cause anxiety, especially the higher THC strains. So it almost seems to like balance it out, which is funny because I have this special blend right here, which is one I made, and it's Cana extract with some Cana in it too, as well as Sacred Lotus Heart, which is the jewel of the seed. The red lotus heart contains various compounds. One of them, I believe, is nuciferine, and then there's aporphine, I believe. But they've also found that they're not quite sure exactly how it affects you. If you go look up red lotus online and you try to find information about it, it's very limited. But my vendor's been working on, I guess, he said he spent like the last 20 years working on this, obviously on and off, but that it's something that he really wanted to put out, and I got some. It's very expensive, so, you know, it's not the kind of stuff that I would really sell or anything. It's like $20 a gram, but it's phenomenal. The first time I got some, I put a little bit on a bowl and took a hit, and it was like, because it's smokable as well, and that makes the, you know, it very effective. So things that you can smoke, for example, Kratom, you can ingest it, but you don't hear about people smoking Kratom. Now, I have heard people say that they have. but generally the amount needed is just not worth it, even if it is effective that way. And I don't know how much of the compounds are wasted in smoking, but when it comes to lotus and Cana, they are very effective in that way. I find it awesomely useful. Cordyceps sinensis. I don't know what really to think about this one. I picked up a kilo of cordyceps from my vendor because he had some extra, and I take it every day. I put it in my smoothie, about a teaspoon, and cordyceps won't give you a head change of any sort, but what they do is help your lungs to absorb more oxygen. So my belief is that certain compounds, such as, for example, the nootropics that I have, the ones that I sell have a lot of different, mainly lion's mane is a very useful thing, but all these different compounds have different uses. And here's basically, in a nutshell, what's going on. Your brain, when you're thinking, you're oxidizing glucose. So if you can get more glucose to be oxidized, as well as more oxygen in your brain to oxidize the glucose. So there are certain herbs that help your brain to use more oxygen, whereas taking cordyceps will help your lungs absorb more oxygen and seem to help people to ease from, it eases the burden of working out or, you know, getting short of breath, say, when you're running or hiking or something. It's pretty interesting. I have a... It's funny, I just wanted to mention these. I made these capsules right here. They're turmeric and bacopa. I don't sell them, I just made them for myself. But I wanted to mention, you know, if you're a person who makes capsules, you can buy the colored capsules and buy a couple different kinds, as well as the regular clear capsules, and then mix and match colors. So for example, these ones are half clear and half blue, but it looks yellow and blue because it's got turmeric in it. But turmeric and bacopa are pretty nasty tasting on their own, so I prefer to take those in capsules. And I've worked on a variety of different, like, evening type capsule blends, and using Cana is very, very beneficial for that. The last two I've got here, one's guarana and one's mucuna, and they look almost identical. And I remember I started carrying these on my site a year ago, and somebody asked me, I think that they thought they got the wrong stuff in their order. They said that I believe they got guarana in place of mucuna, but I was, you know, 99% sure that I didn't. But since they look so similar, I can't be sure. So I just stopped carrying them, make sure my vendor didn't make a mistake or something. But since I used the guarana in my blends, I started ordering it again. But the mucuna prairiens, now it's a bean. It's also known as velvet bean. It's interesting because in the bean, the hairs of the bean and the outside of the pod, actually, they can be really irritating to the skin. And I guess they contain a lot of serotonin, which is, of course, not, you know, we're not after the shell of it. We want precursors to serotonin and dopamine, which L-Dopa is one of those precursors. And L-Dopa is found in mucuna at about a 5%, 4 to 5% rate. So the mucuna I have is 25% L-Dopa, so it's fortified. So it's 25% pure L-Dopa, which is good. Then I take a teaspoon at a time, and it's sufficient, 500 milligrams. But for those who are curious about mucuna, it is very interesting. First off, I had to remove it from my smoothie blend for a while because I thought it might be irritating my stomach, and I wasn't sure which it was because I take a variety of things. Ashwagandha is one of the other ones that I take, and that's a phenomenal adaptogenic herb. It's a root. It's considered like Indian ginseng. I also take, you know, I have cinnamon and ginger and bacopa, and a variety of other things. I like to take moringa. Moringa is a wonderful, just green leaf that contains most vitamins and minerals. They're all great for smoothies. It's the ones that aren't very edible or palatable that I prefer to put into capsules. So things like cinnamon and ginger and whatnot. And besides that, I don't think I really have a whole lot of other herbs that I was going to talk about because there are just so many out there. Then there's all the other compounds like L-tyrosine and L-theanine and some of the B vitamins and a variety of other compounds and what they call just the white powders, which is very difficult to gauge. You know, anybody can go on eBay and order, you know, a couple 100 grams of a white powder claiming to be a vitamin, but do you have the testing facility? On that note, there is a device called the SIO that came out a couple of years ago, and it's a handheld portable mass spectrometer, which in the future, if the kinks are worked out on this, it'll allow you to just put it up against a pill or herbs or powder or anything, and it'll tell you what it consists of. But it can only work if the database has that in it. So if you're the first person to scan this thing, then you have to explain to the machine or put into the system what it is. Anyway, over a period of time, it'd be nice if people could actually scan what they're getting and know right away. It would change the way that business operates in the herb world, because I saw a study that was done where they researched a bunch of capsule blends and found that something like 80% of the herbs on the market didn't contain the right levels that they claimed on the bottle, and like 30% of them didn't have any of the active herbs in them whatsoever. And how are you going to know unless you can test it? If you buy a capsule with a green powder in it, for all you know, it could be lawn clippings. Not that it probably is, but that makes it really hard for anybody to gauge what they're buying. So I guess we just have to stick with people we trust. That's one of the hardest things. That's why I stick with my Kratom vendor for the last 7 years, because I trust him. And even though I know there's cheaper Kratom elsewhere, cheaper isn't as important as good quality. I can go out and buy Mexican weed for half the price, but I don't want it, you know. I want to make sure what I'm taking is, I don't have to overdo it and wonder what's in there. We have to wonder enough with the foods that we eat and stuff. So, anyhow, yeah, herb chat. And if anybody has any questions about herbs, just let me know. I might even have another video where I mention, you know, the question that you have. And otherwise, I will talk to you all later. Hope you all have a good day. Peace.